Say one, test one, say one, test, one, say one, test, under trois, test, under, say one, test, under trois, test one, under, say,
Test 2.
say one, say,
1, 2.
deux, say one, micro, test one, say one, test one, say, test, say, under trois.
Yes, A. Yes, under A1. Okay. Yes, A.
Moussa. Gueye wal ma Moussa Gueye. Gis nu mu mel.
Yes, A. SAN bien. Ok.
Maa doon rocc.
Ok. A1, 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2. Essai. Haut-parleur yi ñu ngi ñëw. Test 1, 1, 2, 3. Test. A1, A. Test 1, 2. Essai 1, 2. A1, A. 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2. Ok. A. Ok. Yes. Ok. Ok. A. Test 1, 2. A1, 1, 2, 3. A. A1, A, 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2, 3. A. A1, 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2. 1, 2. Yes, ok. Un, deux, trois, test. Un, deux, ok.
waaw parce que doon nag son bi peut-être câble da koy def câble da koy
Ok. Yes, un, deux. Yes, un, deux. Ok. Yes, un, deux. Et one, un, deux, trois. Test, un, deux. Et C, un, deux. Et one, un, deux, trois, test, un, deux.
ana beneen bi
Vous avez deux micros à votre disposition. Ça va? Il y a déjà un autre là-bas. Oh, je vous.
oui, il y a déjà un ici. Le temps de l'attente, c'est combien? Quand je l'allume, avant que c'était.
Bon, je sais pas.
Ici, il n'y a pas de lampe témoin. Je ne clique, je n'appuie pas tout le temps. Allô, ici. Je crois que c'est. Comment on va continuer de l'utiliser? C'est bon.
Je garde celui-là. Oui, derrière. Test 1, 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 1. SC 1. Test 1, 1, 2. SC 1. Test 1, 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 1. C, C1. Test 1. Test micro SC. C1. Test micro 1, 2. SC. Test micro 1. Test 1, 1. SC. Test micro 1, essai 1, 2, test 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, test 1, C, C1, test 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Woo! Please all take a seat. Take a seat. Welcome to our opening ceremony. Bonjour à tous. Je suis fini avec français maintenant. A warm welcome. We are glad to have you all here. We know you had a long day, a very long day. I observed some of the conversations, really important conversations about a lot of interesting topics. I heard some warm invitations to field trips. I think they will all be booked out soon. But no further ado, welcome to the opening ceremony. And to get started, we would like to take a quick look back. Quick hands up. Who was at the last Snrd conference? In Accra? Oh, really? Just a few people. Wow. Well, we brought some photos from the last conference. As you can see, we had quite a number of face masks in the room back then. So I think this looks much better, and we have a much fuller room. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be even better than the last conference. Do you agree? Woohoo! All right. To warm up the nostalgia, we brought you a video that was shot at the last conference. Just 2 minutes to get nostalgic and warm up memories. Let's play the video. Well, I'm sure the videographers would appreciate the applause, but I'll take it instead. I believe the conference that we had in 2021 happened around November. And since then, a lot has happened, almost 2 years. So let's just chat a bit about what has happened. I think one of the really tough ones has been the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war just started about 2.5, 3 months after our last Snrd convening. And it's really changed a lot for us when it comes to food security, global security, but also really concrete changes in trade, for instance, when it comes to availability of wheat and explosion of prices. And I believe when we were together in SNRD in Accra the last time, many people didn't think that this would really happen, and suddenly it happened. And I believe it's actually really affected quite a number of projects in terms of GIZ's work in agriculture across Africa. There's also the current narrative that's emerging around the world. Many political analysts are saying we're in a new Cold War. I read an article the other day that talked about how the current geopolitical environment that we are in is very comparable to the 1960s. Very multipolar, not bipolar, multipolar. And apparently it's a very, very big time of uncertainty that is really affecting political environments across Africa, across the world, and has many implications for agricultural trade, food security, and political stability. There's also the rising interest rates have affected some mortgages for sure. But more importantly, they've also really changed world economy. They've changed the way capital is available. They've put a lot of economies across the continent under pressure, and they've really changed the financial markets across the continent and the world. And again, this has massive implications on our work when it comes to the projects that are part of SNRD. And last but not least, also something that I believe some of you might talk about in the next couple of days, many articles out there currently about the rise of military coups across Africa. A rising number of coups that is happening in shorter periods of time. Now we have a war in Sudan. These are all things that we didn't think about as much when we were together in 2021. I believe in 2021, as you could see from the video, we were very absorbed with the COVID pandemic and our face masks. But now suddenly we are faced with very new challenges that make this meeting even more important to make sure we can exchange on the many changes that we're exposed to on a daily basis and really chart the right path for the future. But most importantly, all of these things obviously have a massive impact on food security. And so it's very exciting that we're really focusing on the narrative of food systems at this particular conference in order to make sure that value chains can be resilient and stand that test of change. Now, if we continue, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Yasmin. I do know a few faces from the 2021 conference, but I'm looking forward to getting to many new faces over the next couple of days. I'll be your co-moderator together with my colleague Claude. A warm welcome for Claude. You know, when Claude came here with his suit, I said we almost look like a couple at a wedding. Claude has the great advantage that he's...
Bonsoir à tous. Oui, bonsoir Yasmine, bonsoir à toutes et à tous. Comme Yasmine l'a dit, nous sommes très contents d'être ici avec vous pour lancer cette conférence 2023 du SNRD. Nous avons vu tout à l'heure la vidéo qui montre à quel point Accra a été un moment fort du réseau. Mais bien sûr, Yasmine, Dakar sera encore meilleur. Dakar, je veux dire, le Sénégal sera meilleur dans ce joli cadre de la Somone. Il y aura bien sûr des retrouvailles. J'ai vu des visages ravis à la vue des images tout à l'heure. Il y aura du réseautage, du partage. Il va y avoir aussi des découvertes de produits, mais aussi de sites pour visiter, voir un peu ce qui se passe sur le terrain. La GIZ est en beaucoup d'endroits et vous allez voir des choses extraordinaires. Grâce à l'équipe locale de la GIZ ici, vous avez un programme intéressant concocté par les équipes que nous allons présenter en fin de cérémonie. Mais en attendant, je dois vous signaler que nous avons avec nous des personnalités qui nous allons donner la parole pour des discours d'introduction pour vous souhaiter la bienvenue. Je signale que parmi ces personnalités, nous avons le Dr Léona Midzi, M. Albert Engel, Dr Kirsten Foken, Dr Ralph Zanftenberg, M. Omar Ba et Rita Weidinger qu'on ne présente plus. Et pour commencer, je suis très heureux de donner la parole au Dr Kirsten Foken pour son mot de bienvenue. Sous vos applaudissements, s'il vous plaît.
GIZ, on behalf of the GIZ Africa department. Unfortunately, our colleagues from Senegal couldn't be here because they're in Germany. So I'm doing this on behalf of the whole GIZ Africa team, and of course all other colleagues who came here from Germany, who came here from across Africa. It's a great turnout. I was in Ghana actually 2 years ago. It was similar, and I don't think there's a competition. It's a build-up. So welcome again. First of all, I want to really thank again, and you mentioned this, for this great preparation and this excellent and warm welcome we all had here yesterday or the day before. The team from Invest in Jobs, actually Senegal, did a great job, and the Snrd organization team did a great job so far. It's not over, so this is not a thank you message, but just I really feel we are in a great setting and a great environment to work and exchange. Let me just share a few. I really have to take care to be close here. A few thoughts on the conference topic: transform and invest future-proof food system. Transform and innovate. Sorry, transform and innovate future food systems. Transformation, and we just had a session where we again said transformation. Everybody talks about transformation. We had a session in Germany on transformation. We read it in the news, transformation, and we all are aware that transformation means drastic change. It's not just change, it's transformation. I think 10 years ago we all talked about change. Today we talk about transformation. Why is this? I think we know why it is. The photos we just saw about political change crisis, I should say, political crisis, climate change, etc., etc. I'm not going into the global challenges we have. I just want to repeat that we are in times of change and transformation. And I think we all ourselves in our work, we asking ourselves the question, what does it mean? What does it mean for us? What does it mean for our work? Of course, in particular, also here in West Africa, can we continue like we do? Probably not. We don't have the answer. And I don't think there is one single, simple answer. The answer are somewhere along the lines of, are we doing the right things or are we doing it right? Should we completely change? And again, it's not that we are stopping everything we are doing and do everything new. It's a combination, and that makes it actually really difficult. But that also makes it necessary to come together to discuss and exchange. And that's why the sector network like Snrd become even more important to make sure we are all sort of on the same level. We don't have the same opinions. We may not even have the same values, but we have an overall goal and objective of GIZ, which is actually to make the world better and to work with our partners in the countries. And on this basis, we need to think and discuss what can we do differently and what can we transform. We do now, I just want to point out a few aspects we are discussing in our work, and I'm sure you do this as well. One regards cooperation. Cooperation amongst ourselves at GIZ, cooperation with partners, and sorry I didn't welcome you, but we have partners here in the room and partners listening from the European Union, and the BMZ, the German government is a partner, and we have the partners in the country, the ministry, civil society, businesses, and the way we cooperate, I think we have good experience and we do it well, but there may be different other ways to cooperate, which I think is one lever we need to think about. One other aspect we do discuss a lot, and we see in the GIZ vision, destination we call it, that we should think less in single solutions, but we can call it overall portfolio. We can call it integrated solution. It means that one person, one project cannot solve all the challenges. We need to integrate them and look at the overall challenges. I think that's one of the topics we can see we already have discussed today, and we discuss more in the next couple of days. And the third point, I think it's important, and it's in the topic of the conference, is innovation. I think there's a lot of scope, and I think there's actually a lot of innovation we are doing across Africa and across the world. But can we use it better? Can we do more? Can we be faster and use the innovative approach for transformation? Maybe innovation is just a positive word of transformation. So really innovation, integration, and cooperation are, from my point of view, key points we need to align ourselves. I'm not here to tell you how food systems can be transformed. You are the expert on food systems, and I'm sure, and again, a lot of things I observe when I talk to the colleagues in the countries. I've just been traveling to Togo. I will go to Cote d'Ivoire tomorrow. There's so much we do already, and really by all, we want to transform, do different things. We need to base it on what we are doing, on our really, really good contacts to partners of all sectors, to our staff, our team members in the countries who work on the issues. There is a lot, and we are not wanting to not capitalize on this, or we have to build on what we are doing. That's one message. I think it's really important. We maybe sometimes want to put this in the overall perspective, to be better able to communicate with our partners and commissioners on the global challenges. How do we actually contribute to a transformation of food systems? But I think the elements, the bits and pieces, we already do a lot. So I really encourage you to continue what you're doing, build, capitalize on what you're doing, and of course, continue exchanging in the sector networks. You're all here, so I don't need to convert you, but encourage your colleagues, and we as a management also try to encourage the management to again capitalize more on the sector networks, to be able, the good knowledge and the good approaches we have, we put this into place, and we value this. And again, that's why SNRD is such an important sector networks. I just want to share something our colleague Jochen from FMB told us early on. I'm sure he will tell you again that the BMZ made a study where the result is basically, or we made a study on behalf of BMZ and we discussed with BMZ. So basically the study confirmed that sector networks are a very important and valuable element of our work. So sector networks have been important, are important, and will be important. This is what we think, this is what the Commissioner think. We will be continuously supported by the BMZ to do this. Again, we are on the right way to be here together to exchange. And on this positive note, with all the challenges we have, I really wish you great days here, to take the opportunities to exchange, to know each other. Of course, a lot of people come here also to meet other colleagues, but also take it further. That's maybe another thing we should think about, because very often, and I know the same thing, we go home and, okay, see you in 1 or 2 years or whatever. But we should try to establish maybe a bit more commitment and continuation in some of the key topics. Although, and this also, I know we are all very busy in our operational work, but I'm sure that we will all benefit with more exchange. So thank you again for being here, for exchanging colleagues, partners, organizing teams. We have a great setting here, and I'm looking forward for the exchange the next couple of days. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Dr. Christiane Fauken. Je rappelle que vous êtes chef de division Afrique de l'Ouest et Madagascar à la GIZ. Nous sommes ici dans cette salle, mais aussi connectés à toute la communauté de la GIZ à travers le monde. C'est ainsi que nous allons joindre en ligne le docteur Léonard Mizy. Il est chef d'unité à la Commission européenne, Direction générale des partenariats internationaux et du développement rural. Nous allons suivre en ligne le docteur Léonard Mizy.
Merci beaucoup et bonsoir de Bruxelles. Ici, c'est 7h30 du soir. Et je vais continuer en anglais. First of all, thanks to GIZ and your networks for inviting us. I always consider GIZ as a solid partner. Germany, BMZ, GIZ, and the networks that you have, and I see a big team down in Senegal. We collaborate almost, I wouldn't say on a weekly basis, but almost on a daily basis. So I'm sure that the proceedings, and I saw the program for the next 5 days, I look forward to the proceedings, and I'll make sure that Rita and colleagues and Kirsten diffuse these proceedings, and why not? In our collaborations, I have GIZ management with our Director General coming up next week. And why not, in the follow-up to this GIZ senior management meeting and DG INPA, have food systems high on the agenda. And what I need to say is that food systems, with all what's happened, and I heard about COVID, about the war, about the aggression of Russia in the past years, with the spillover effects, technically food systems should be high on the agenda, and it is high on the agenda, but is it sufficiently high in the development agenda? And I would say on paper, yes, we see G7, G20, multilateralism, we see the UN Food System Summit stocktake moment in July. We see UNGA mentioning a bit food systems, but we also need to acknowledge that food systems is competing with other sectors for, I would say, a shrinking part of official development assistance. Public budgets remain under strain. And with what happened in COVID, clearly, in the European Union point of view, clearly the issue of vaccine manufacturing became important. So you are close to Dakar, and the dimension of Senegal being a hub of vaccine manufacturing became more and more important. We also see that energy became more important. We speak about renewables, about hydrogen, and about wind and solar energy. We also speak about education and human development becoming important. But food sometimes is a bit, I would say, the Cinderella in the room, because we say it's important, but the question is, and for those who are experts in the CADA process, how many really across the African continent support with scale public expenditure in agriculture and food systems? And we know that only very few, almost on one hand, maybe one hand and a bit, really still prioritize at the highest level public expenditure under the CADAP Malabo process. So a bit of a stock take or a wake-up call, because Kirsten spoke about drastic changes. First of all, yes, we need drastic changes, but do the African governments want drastic changes in the agri-food systems? Are they prepared? Because this is also a continental agenda. We know what happened in the last 24, 48 hours. The situation in the Middle East complicates an already very tense geopolitical context. I don't need to tell you what's happening in West Africa, the question of Niger, Burkina, Mali, and the spillover effects in the Sahel. I don't need to tell you the issue of economic shocks. Not far from Senegal, there is a very important meeting of the IMF World Bank in Marrakesh. We'll see what comes out. This is the first big show of President Banga of the World Bank in terms of rebalancing a bit the economic and financial situation, because we can finance a lot of food systems, but the big finance has to come from the, I would say, fiscal space, both from the debt scheduling, rescheduling, and also the fiscal space that we need to give the most vulnerable LDCs and the most vulnerable countries across Africa who are really struck by high debt. We know countries even countries like Ghana, Zambia, which traditionally were not amongst the worst hit, these have been also under the rescheduling of debt, Ghana benefiting from 3 billion. So this is critically a situation where World Bank, IMF having a bit of a more positive scenario in terms of economic growth, still growth is extremely fragile. If you have a war, if you have geopolitical tensions in critical hotspots across the globe, clearly investment doesn't flow easily. And that's something I think that the Snrd should look closely. One of the challenges we have been unraveling and grappling with as European Commission, also with our member states, is how can we de-risk more smartly food investments and agri-food investments. So in the last 2 years, clearly with a big trust of the African continent to feed itself, and you hear more the words of strategic autonomy or food self-sufficiency, and countries like Senegal wanting to be food self-sufficient. I remember when I visited Senegal 10, 15 years ago, the aim was to be self-sufficient, for example, in rice. Now, if we look at value chain by value chain, and a few months ago, actually in Dakar, what are known as Dakar Compacts in January 2023 under the auspices of the African Development Bank, there have been a number of compacts to actually identify which value chains have the most traction for Africa to feed itself. The figures that FAO give us is that Africa has an import bill, I'm speaking here about sub-Saharan Africa, of around 60 billion, and this is spiraling out of control. So the first question is, if we want to have drastic change, how can we transform agri-food systems which create jobs, which create growth, which create value addition? So with countries like Germany, France, with GIZ, AFD, what we are trying to do in a practical way is to identify those value chains which have most traction. One of the big initiatives that we have been launching with GIZ these past weeks and months and in the coming year is the work that we do on deforestation-free value chains. This is a regulatory process that has entered, was validated by the institutions and will come into full force at the end of next year. So identifying deforestation-free value chains like the cocoa value chains in Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and Cameroon, but also coffee value chains, just to name 2 value chains. We have also rubber, we have palm oil, we have livestock, and we have timber, amongst others. This is clearly part of a radical transformation process. Is it easy? When we speak about drastic change, radical transformation, is this easy? No. It becomes even more complicated in a geopolitical context. Why? Because when you have regulatory processes like deforestation, like due diligence, like the Green Deal, you make your partners anxious. You make your partners uneasy. Why? Because change is uneasy. Many politicians like the status quo, or pretty much a status quo. The question is, we can't continue a status quo. COVID, the war, what's happening on climate change, what's happening in the economic landscape across the globe, from interest rates to inflation to oil prices to food price inflation to logistics issue. COVID is over, but we also know that there are still logistical bottlenecks and infrastructure bottlenecks across the globe, with cost structures spiraling and becoming more complicated for smaller operators. So the question is, we need also, first of all, if I were to start prioritizing from a European angle what needs to be done, first of all, we need to have a more inequity and equity typology lens. The geopolitics makes the big players bigger, big corporates. If you look at profitability, maybe they have declined a bit, but they are still mega big. Who pays the price when you have COVID, post-COVID, and shocks, it is the weakest link. So we still are in the narrative that we need to support the weakest link, but the weakest link needs also to be supported in a value chain approach. So that is what we do in terms of ag research, farmers organization support, gender lens in terms of cooperatives led by women, but also giving a future to youth using digital applications. We clearly need more success stories to scale up, not only in terms of diversified farming systems, but also value addition. The work that we do also with GIZ and with the German government and other member states around cashew nuts. So we just had also in Senegal a few weeks ago an important orientation on cashew nuts. So cashew, coffee, cocoa, it's fine. But the question is, if Africa wants to feed itself, we need to focus on other crops. The question of wheat, should we invest or not in wheat? Should we invest or not in maize? How to look into fertilizers between synthetic fertilizers and organic fertilizers and biofertilizers. The discussion around livestock. Do we invest big in livestock? The appetite of many member states, maybe with the exception of Germany, is limited on livestock and agropastoralism and animal diseases. And the big work that also we are doing with BMZ on fisheries and aquaculture. Actually, tomorrow in Brussels, I meet the director of fisheries and aquaculture, Baranj, who visits us to discuss, amongst other things, illegal and unreported fishing, but also aquaculture and wild fisheries management. The project we have in fisheries also has a good project in Senegal. And I understand that you are in a location where actually there are oysters. So this is a project in Senegal which has oysters within mangroves. So this is a landscape approach also to have livelihoods in coastal areas. What we clearly need, and this is my plea and I try to conclude, is we need good stories to communicate across the international community. It is not only a battle of armaments, unfortunately, but it's also a battle of words and a battle of narratives. Who can showcase the best approach of lifting Africa out of poverty between a model which is a European model with its own values, but it's also with its own regulatory processes vis-a-vis other models that other big players are offering the African continent. That is one. So I think there is a lot of work that should be done between BMZ, GIZ, European Commission on not only storytelling, but good cases from Senegal to Ghana to countries like Burkina, Mauritania, to the eastern and southern parts of Africa, and in a continental way. How to create jobs in agribusiness, in a food systems approach amongst youth, amongst women, and to lift people out of poverty. Secondly is to have a robust dialogue with the private sector and with financial institutions on de-risking. De-risking not only in terms of the challenges around climate change, but also why is agriculture and food systems still struggling vis-a-vis other sectors like energy, digital, and general industrial operation when it comes to the risking of financial institutions. There is still something of a problem when it comes to the risking small ticket sizes rather than mega projects of 5, 10, 15 million. And third, I think we have an important role to play at the highest level in multilateral context. We work a lot with FAO, with IFAD, with the WFP, but clearly with the UN Security Council, because it is important to convey the message of what Europe and what the European Union with the member states can offer in terms of global solutions. We have to go global solutions to regional solutions, then to country solutions. An approach in Senegal might work in a neighboring context, but might not be the silver bullet in each and every country. If we speak about rice self-sufficiency, we also need to see what is the cost of self-sufficiency from an input subsidy point of view, from a fiscal point of view, from a pricing point of view, from a rebalancing of intra-regional dynamics. You can't speak about self-sufficiency at country level without looking into the ECOWAS self-sufficiency or the continental self-sufficiency of rice and the rural-urban dynamics. So, colleagues, I look forward to proceedings. The European Union is there to be a partner with you. I'm sure that you are in contact with our delegations. Be more in contact with our delegations. We are in a critical moment where we are designing a midterm review with a new rebalancing of the new priorities. We don't know whether food will gain more importance or less importance. You know that the trust is clearly on the politics, and you saw them in elections, even in Germany, the local elections in the past days, with big concerns clearly on migratory flows. This is going to be a big issue. We are approaching European Parliament elections in June of 2024. Clearly, Ukraine reconstruction is important, is critical, is highly political, but the fallout of what's happening across the globe these days will also have big repercussions on the political decisions that Europe has to take in 2024. So looking forward, but clearly more needs to be done together at country level, and European Union and delegations are there also to support you in co-creation mode, but also in pushing the values and the rights-based approach at country level with the most vulnerable parts of the communities. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Dr Midi. Je rappelle que vous êtes chef d'unité à la Commission européenne. Retour en salle ici dans la salle Nelson Mandela pour donner la parole au Dr Cheikh Oumar Ba. Vous êtes directeur de l'IPAR, qui est un think tank de réflexion sur les politiques publiques en matière agricole. Dr Ba.
Merci beaucoup pour cette invitation. Je voudrais d'abord vous me présenter. Je suis Cheikh Oumar Ba, le directeur exécutif de IPAR. Je suis le président du réseau des think tanks de l'UOMOA. Mais ce qui m'intéresse ici aujourd'hui, au niveau de l'IPAR, c'est que il est aujourd'hui important de partager avec vous quelques réflexions. Mais avant cela, je tenais d'abord à vous dire que c'est un immense plaisir que j'éprouve aujourd'hui de participer à cette importante rencontre du réseau sectoriel pour le développement rural Afrique sur le thème « Transformer, innover des systèmes alimentaires durables ». Je voudrais particulièrement remercier les organisatrices et les organisateurs d'avoir identifié notre think tank IPAR pour prendre part à cette importante rencontre. En tant que coordinateur du réseau national des think tanks du Sénégal, mais également en tant que président du réseau des think tanks de l'UOMOA, qui regroupe une trentaine de centres de recherche un peu partout en Côte d'Ivoire, au Bénin et dans des autres pays. Donc, je me réjouis de partager quelques analyses sur les enjeux et les défis liés à la transformation des systèmes alimentaires au Sénégal, mais également dans la sous-région. Mesdames et messieurs, depuis quelques années, je crois que tous les intervenants l'ont dit, nous assistons à un monde qui est confronté à d'importantes crises qui sont multidimensionnelles, aussi bien climatiques, sanitaires, géopolitiques, économiques, énergétiques et alimentaires, je crois que les autres en ont parlé, qui ont été exacerbées par récemment effectivement la pandémie et la guerre russo-ukrainienne. Ce qu'on doit noter, c'est que ces derniers événements ont eu un impact perturbateur sur les chaînes logistiques mondiales et surtout ont accru les incertitudes par rapport aux approvisionnements des pays. À ces différentes crises se superposent effectivement des tendances lourdes qui façonnent le devenir de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, de l'Afrique subsaharienne de manière générale. Je veux parler de la question de la sécurité dans la région, notamment au Sahel. Je veux parler des transitions démographiques, parce qu'aujourd'hui, l'Afrique subsaharienne est l'un des rares continents à poursuivre sa transition démographique de manière générale, avec des jeunes qui, dans des pays moyens comme le Sénégal, le Mali, ce n'est pas moins de plus de 200 000 jeunes qui arrivent chaque année sur le marché de l'emploi. Mais à côté de cela, on sait qu'il y a énormément de ressources La question maintenant, c'est comment transformer ces ressources pour créer plus d'emplois, créer peut-être un monde qui soit plus vivable pour tout le monde. Et je crois que la transformation du système alimentaire pourrait y contribuer. Permettez-moi simplement de rappeler qu'à titre d'exemple, si on prend le Sénégal, on sait que dans ce contexte, le Sénégal évolue aussi dans un contexte d'économie extravertie. Je crois que tout à l'heure, celui qui a parlé a évoqué la question des importations. Dans un pays comme le Sénégal, on importe près de pratiquement 800 milliards par an. Et c'est pratiquement 13% du budget national. Donc, c'est clair que si votre économie dépend de l'importation, c'est clair qu'on ne peut pas confier son ventre à l'étranger. On sait aussi que la demande de produits alimentaires est fortement tributaire des importations, en tout cas au Sénégal particulièrement, et c'est ce que je venais d'expliquer. Mais que pour faire face à cette situation, le Sénégal a opté pour le choix de la souveraineté alimentaire. On sait que la souveraineté alimentaire est un concept qui est cher à Via Campesina, à d'autres organisations de la société civile comme l'Europa, le CNC et les autres acteurs, comme on est dans l'espace ouest africain. Mais c'est pour dire que dans ce contexte, le Sénégal a engagé lors de Dakar 2, avec l'appui de la BAD, de la Banque africaine de développement et du ministère de l'Agriculture, et notre think tank a eu la chance d'aider le Sénégal à écrire son compact, qui a permis de proposer jusqu'à la mobilisation de 5 000 milliards sur les 5 années à venir. Mais c'est clair que si on doit discuter aujourd'hui ces questions, on ne peut pas ne pas cerner les fondements, revenir sur les fondements d'une stratégie de souveraineté alimentaire, mais globalement qui va vers les systèmes alimentaires durables. De notre point de vue, il faut répondre à une question: quel régime alimentaire souhaitons-nous promouvoir? En examinant effectivement le comportement du consommateur, mais aussi ses préférences. Parce que souvent, on parle beaucoup de production, mais on oublie le consommateur final. C'est lui qui décide qu'est-ce qu'il veut manger demain. Deuxièmement, comment assurer un approvisionnement suffisant et stable des aliments sains et nutritifs, en repensant les chaînes de valeur, les chaînes d'approvisionnement, notamment les systèmes de production, bien sûr, en termes de diversité, de productivité, d'innovation, vous en avez parlé dans votre conférence, mais également d'approche sensible au climat et à la nutrition. La question de stockage, de distribution, toutes ces questions qui, avec la transformation et le conditionnement, créent la possibilité de se connecter, de connecter les petits producteurs au marché, parce qu'ils sont majoritaires. Et on ne peut pas aller vers cette transformation du système alimentaire si on ne prend pas en compte la majorité des populations. C'est cela qui va créer davantage d'emplois, en respectant bien sûr les équilibres écosystémiques. La transformation du système alimentaire comporte des enjeux économiques, sociaux et environnementaux que je ne vais pas peut-être détailler ici parce que la conférence certainement va y revenir. Mais ce qui est important, c'est que ces enjeux économiques sont au moins de deux ordres. D'une part, on a ce qu'on appelle la structuration et la consolidation des chaînes de valeur agricoles et alimentaires, permettent de cibler des filières clés prioritaires pour les pays et de fournir l'assistance technique nécessaire au développement des maillons faibles de ces chaînes. D'autre part, la structuration de ces chaînes de valeur contribue au maintien de la valeur ajoutée dans le territoire donné. On sait aussi qu'il y a les questions des enjeux socio-culturels qui intègrent l'accès de tous à une alimentation saine en permettant la production d'aliments sains et nutritifs et en agissant sur une amélioration de la distribution. Les interventions facilitent l'accès des groupes vulnérables à une alimentation saine et adéquate. L'éducation alimentaire constitue également un enjeu social crucial pour modeler les régimes alimentaires et les adapter aux potentialités de production locale. Enfin, les enjeux environnementaux incluent l'adoption d'une transition agroécologique et de préservation des eaux et des pâturages, car la perte de fertilité des sols et la salinisation est souvent observée dans ce milieu et qu'on ne peut pas ne pas prendre en compte des stratégies de restauration qui intègrent dans une démarche globale de transition agroécologique. Mesdames et messieurs, je vais terminer mes propos en partageant avec vous quelques défis et points d'attention qu'une réflexion sur les transformations des systèmes alimentaires devrait prendre en considération. Le premier défi que j'entrevois, c'est la réduction de la pression sur le foncier et les ressources naturelles de manière générale. Sol, eau, forêt, ressources halieutiques qui sont déjà fortement dégradées. Le défi numéro 2, c'est comment gérer le décalage entre les préférences alimentaires, souvent des urbains, mais aussi ce qui est spécifique dans la transition démo-économique de l'Afrique subsaharienne, c'est que pendant que les villes s'accroissent, le milieu rural aussi continue de s'accroître. Parce que quand on regarde dans les années 1835, par là, on savait qu'il y avait plus de 65 millions d'Européens qui sont partis ailleurs dans le monde. Aujourd'hui, on est en train de vivre cette transition démo-économique qui fait que si on ne trouve pas des solutions pérennes, ça peut perturber l'équilibre mondial. Et je crois que ça, c'est une question, c'est pourquoi votre réflexion mérite effectivement d'être saluée par rapport au système alimentaire qui constitue un enjeu majeur. Le troisième défi, c'est comment répondre à la croissance et à la diversification de la demande alimentaire introduite par la démographie et l'urbanisation. Et enfin, c'est comment améliorer l'équité territoriale et limiter les risques de compétition entre les acteurs industriels, les petites et moyennes entreprises et les exploitations familiales. Parce que souvent, on pense que simplement la solution pour des investissements, c'est peut-être d'installer l'agrobusiness, même si on en a besoin, mais il faut trouver comment l'équilibre pourrait se trouver entre l'agrobusiness et l'agriculture familiale, tout en préservant les ressources. Pour terminer sur des recommandations, j'en ai 3 petites et rapides. C'est comment promouvoir des modèles de financement innovants pour permettre un meilleur accès des acteurs au financement. Il y a des initiatives que nous sommes en train de faire au niveau local et je suis heureux de constater que la GIZ, que ce soit dans le bassin arachidier, continue de travailler sur ces dynamiques et je voudrais l'en féliciter. Le deuxième élément, c'est de mettre en place des cadres réglementaires appropriés et une gouvernance multipartite. Parce que souvent, on pense qu'avec un seul ministère, on peut régler les questions du système alimentaire, alors qu'on ne peut pas parler du système alimentaire si on ne parle pas de santé, si on ne parle pas d'industrie, etc. Et enfin, c'est de produire des évidences scientifiques pour éclairer les décisions politiques. On en a parlé tout à l'heure. Il faut expérimenter au niveau local des solutions qui soient des solutions adaptables et pouvant intégrer les politiques publiques généralement. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention et vraiment merci.
Merci beaucoup, Dr Ba. Je rappelle que vous êtes le directeur de IPAR. Merci, Dr Ba. Je veux inviter maintenant le groupe des animateurs du Baobab pour une petite pause culturelle. Si le groupe des animateurs de Baobab peut entrer dans la salle pour sa prestation. Bonjour. Soyez en haut pour que tout le monde vous voit. Des animateurs du Baobab, merci beaucoup. Merci pour notre collègue aussi qui a mis de l'ambiance, nos deux collègues, c'est très gentil à vous. Nous retournons en ligne pour retrouver M. Albert Engel, qui est directeur général du département des politiques sectorielles à la GIZ. Il va nous donner son mot liminaire.
Good evening, colleagues. I'm very happy for the opportunity to briefly speak to you. As a sector network, you are an important platform for the organized exchange of sectoral and regional know-how and an important tool for knowledge management. I think that's how we nicely framed it in one of our concept papers that described the role of sector networks. I'm very sorry that I can't be in Senegal with you now because other commitments prevented my travel. And I have not seen the full list of participants, but when I had a quick glance at the agenda, I was glad to see some familiar names of old friends like Rita Weidinger, Heike Höfler, many others. I can't list them now. And I'm very surprised and happy to see Leonard Mitzi, with whom I met on several occasions over the years. Global Donor Platform Rural Development in Brussels, Global Forum Food and Agriculture Berlin, EU Task Force Rural Development. It seems our paths cross many times over the years, and I was very happy to see him. I think he had to leave already, but I think he did an excellent geopolitical framing of our work. A few words about myself. I'm the Director General of the Sector Departments of GIZ. Actually, I could be a retiree now by this time, but I decided to stay on for another 2 years. Previously, I was heading the evaluation department at GIZ, held various other positions. Actually started my work a long time ago in 1983, and 3/4 of my work was with GIZ during that time, 18 years, I believe, in Africa. GIZ networks, such as this one, exist since 28 years. And these kind of networks are important to me. One reason, because I have a history with sector networks, actually since 1995. And I think in the introduction, Yasmin used the word nostalgia. In fact, I do feel a bit nostalgic when I attend a sector network meeting, because this Snrd network of yours was the first sector network meeting of GIZ. And it started also in October in 1995 in Maseru, Lesotho. And I was even able to attend at that time. And I'm very happy to see that the network is still active and lively after so many years. Also, a bit of nostalgia comes up because I had so many different functions in my work that related to sector networks. I was at some time a work group speaker. I was acting as a secretariat. I was a sector network speaker. I was a tandem partner, as we call it in GIZ. I was a member of a sector network coordination meeting. I was responsible for sector networks at that time, planning and development. I was responsible for knowledge management in GIZ. All that related directly to sector networks and explains my special relation to sector networking. Now, when these kind of networks started, that was a time of quite fundamental changes of GIZ. It was the biggest reform, I think, in the history of GIZ. That was the decentralization. Prior to that, the German contribution to projects were managed from Germany, from head office. And at that time, it was decentralized, and the responsibilities for the budget, for achieving the objectives, etc., was given to people in the country. And the responsibility for the German contribution was given to the implementers on the ground. And since sectoral and regional know-how of GIZ is a main asset, and we need to work on that created also an impetus of networking in these kinds of sector networks like this one. It's of course also based on the fact that perhaps a major advantage, or sometimes you may call it unique selling point of GIZ work, is our vast networks and implementation experience. We do know firsthand what works on the ground. We generate innovations with partners within our networks, etc. So that's why these sector networks in GIZ flourished. And by now we have globally 20 professional networks, such as this one, 17 regional, 3 global networks for exchange. And I looked it up last year. There were more than 1,000 events, webinars, workshops, trainings, etc., organized by this kind of sector network. You produced a total of more than 300 products, case studies, documentations, concept papers, etc. So what institution has such expanded networks? Of course, figures, quantitative figures, that does not guarantee quality. So we did ask some time ago for an outsider's view, and Kirsten Focken mentioned it already briefly. We did an external evaluation by a consulting company, which indeed came up with very positive conclusions. They basically concluded sector networks do deliver. They are successful overall, have achieved their set goals. They have a high quality of communication and interaction, and there is a high intrinsic motivation of those actors, you who are active in these networks. Of course, there are challenges that they found also and mentioned: insufficient time resources for effective work in networks. The distribution of the knowledge products is sometimes not very clear, not standardized. Interaction outside these networks is still adequate, etc. But overall, they clearly found these sector networks are successful, and I am personally convinced that we can even put more value to sector networks. And I'm not only convinced of that, it's also my interest and my intention as head of the sectoral department to promote a stronger role of sector networks within GIZ. One step in that direction was to make managing directors more aware of what these sector networks can do and deliver. So I had extensive talks to our managing director, Ingrid Hofen. I think she is convinced now also. She will attend several of this kind of sector networks meeting from next year onwards. And I also believe that these networks, you can contribute to the GIZ strategy that was also mentioned briefly by Kirsten, which clearly describes the changes that we are up to. We want to move from a purely project organization to an implementer of integrated solutions for global challenges. And I believe networks, GIZ networks, can have a stronger role in that as well. Of course, in doing so, we have to keep in mind that the benefits of these networks have to be threefold. They have to benefit, first of all, projects in our partner countries. Second, these networks have to benefit you individually as members. And thirdly, they should benefit GIZ as an institution so that this knowledge that you generate can be used in new projects, perhaps elsewhere as well. So our network potential is far from explored by now. We need your good work and networking to move forward. I hope you can show us how did Leonard Mitzi frame it, agricultural transformation can trigger jobs, growth, and value addition. I think that's how we mentioned it. You have to provide us with good stories, with narratives and good cases. And in that spirit, I wish you a successful conference over the next couple of days. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Albert Engel. Thank you so much, Albert Engel.
Now I can hear you.
Oh, I said thank you so much. We've heard a lot of insightful remarks by now, much food for thought to unpack over the next couple of days. From the importance of transformation, because now it's really about transformation and not just change, to job creation potential of the creation of food systems, to navigating food security and food systems as a top governmental agenda. I believe there's much to think about, and now we've heard a bit more about the history of the sector network as well, and that we have a special spot because we were the first one. But I believe we still have two more contributions, and I'm very excited to welcome Dr. Ralf Sanftenberg to join us here. Please applause, Head of Division at GIZ.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much, Jasmine. Dear colleagues, good evening and a very warm welcome to our Snrd Africa conference here in Senegal. Kirsten already introduced a bit the importance of transformation. I would like to focus a bit more on this, on influencing factors and the role of transformation. GIZ, not only in the agri-food system, in the agri-food sector, but a bit more in general. Our conference motto, transform and innovate, future-proof food system, highly relevant. We are facing significant transformation processes, not only within the sector, but within GIZ, the BMZ as our commissioning party, and as well on international level. The achievement on SDG Goal 2, a world free of hunger by 2030, becomes more challenging than expected, especially since there is a rising number of wars and conflicts, as already mentioned, worldwide, as well as climate change impacts agriculture and food security, and vice versa. Building strong alliances and networks between our programs, national and international partners, will become more and more crucial for our work. We don't live in a splendid isolation of our projects. We are planning integrated solutions, and we are part of something bigger. The international community working on transformation of agri-food systems is a powerful one and should be strengthened furthermore. We as GIZ, we are part of this, and we will even increase our efforts. The transformation of agri-food systems is still high on the agenda of BMZ as our main commissioning party. There's a clear political commitment by BMZ to focus more on the transformation of agendas, processes, and structures of international and global level, which will have a transformational effect to our day-by-day activities in the field of rural development, agriculture, and food security. Decreasing funds from the federal German government, especially in 2025 and beyond, are a challenge. But on the other side, I'm sure there will be a driver for transformation and for innovation. Dear colleagues, transformation is not a voluntary issue. And very important from my point of view, it starts with ourselves. Either we will and we have to transform, or we will be transformed. We as GIZ sector network understand ourselves not as a victim, but as a designer of transformation and innovation. Talking about transformation leads us to the question of a vision for transformation of future-proof food systems. Why to transform? Where to transform to? Which will be partners of this transformation process? What will be our vision? Leonard and Sheikh Omar gave us already some ideas on how to answer these questions. So I'm looking very much forward to discuss this question and possible answers with you during the next days here during our sector network meeting. Thank you very much for your attention, and let's have a great and fruitful sector meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ralf Samtenberg, for your comments. I love that phrase. Either we take a proactive step to transform, or we will be transformed. So an invitation to even more proactive thinking and conversations over the next couple of days. But what would this opening ceremony be without a couple of words and reflections from our one and only speaker of the Snrd network, Rita Weidinger. Big applause, please.
I'll try that. There's another one. Thank you very much, Jasmine. I must admit that I also got a little bit nostalgic when Albert spoke. So forgive me if I also go a little bit back. First, for me, I'm super excited to really see the attendance here and to see this very mixed and diverse group. It makes me super excited. Not an easy one. When we started 4 years ago. We started with a team of 3, so I'm not the only speaker. We had Thomas Breuer and Lucy Pluschke, myself. We took on a role of speakers. We have a team of community managers. They're also changing. Eileen has done a marvelous job. Janice is still here. So we have changed in the team a little. And Jens has joined us as speaker. Maybe Jens, you can go up already so that I'm not the only one. Janice, you have all met. I will still call them up on stage afterwards just to see the large organization team, because the work of SNRD is a community. I think that's what I understand. Maybe I can get the next slide. What is the SNRD? Albert Engel was part of the first team, and they defined also some elements. There was a Fachverbunds policy written 2015. It was updated. So what is it we are? We are a hub of knowledge and human capacity development for national and international experts in GIZ for rural development in Africa. It's about people. It's people driven, and it's us also to engage in our partner countries. It's about the projects we are running, and it's about the larger organization GIZ, which mandates us and which pays us. So there is a strategic interest, and I think it has come clear from Kirsten to Ralph, to Jochen, to Albert Engel, that we have that strategic interest of the organization to also look into the future, how we have to change, where do we have to change, what are the geopolitical dimensions. So therefore we need everybody. This little nostalgia, please, for those who don't know, this is what Albert Engel talked about, and allow me to show quickly where he is. Does anybody see him? Yeah, Mathieu points down here. So this was Albert Engel at the founding meeting of the SNRD. There were 21 project leaders, in a little bit not so diverse at that time. But they had one lady with them who was managing them. So I think already by then the equality was there, not in numbers, but the power game was quite strong there, as I hear from them. So this is what started. Ideas are created, and it's how we develop them. And I would to look at how it evolved then in the next slide. It has really grown and grown and grown and diversified. Topics have changed. And I want to appreciate really the community managers over the year also have done a lot of onboarding. I want to congratulate all the project managers who have also sent their staff to engage, to network. Today we count 940 members. And the diversity is on. We have lost all color codes. We have lost all codes. I think it's a community today. And this was in Accra 2 years ago under very difficult conditions. This was a very young group. We realized there that the project managers sent their staff and said, take the opportunity, because we limited the numbers strongly. This is also some engagement we have with BMZ, generally to limit the numbers. So also today we had some 40 colleagues who could not take part, who wished to be part. So how did we select? We selected by activity in working groups. We selected by our host country and the countries around. We selected decision makers, AVs, DVs, cluster coordinators, and then by diversity. So all the countries who applied at least are represented once. This is what we as community managers and speakers try to do. And I know that the best outcome is now here. So congratulations. The next slide, please. Now, looking a little bit back where we came from, there are always topics driving the development cooperation. And I will not start from the founding times, but to give you a glance that the Snrd, with the various conferences, this one being the 21st conference, and the network now being 28 years. So those going to Zambia, prepare your bottle of champagne. These were the topics driving. Some they have never ceased. Climate change has never ceased. The private sector engagements, which was driven by the Gates project, they're still on. The merger of GIZ is a reality. So these were just punctual elements. Now the changes seem to become more rapid, more deep. And I do think that the last 5 years, nobody really could do business as usual. We always had to reorient. And this is where it's good to take a break, look at the colleagues, look at how do you do business? How do you deal with it? I'm still learning my digitalization part, so forgive me on that side. GTA, I've heard today that we had only one AV in the group, but the community is one of the largest, the working group is one of the largest. So these engagements are there and here. Then next slide, please. What do we stand for? It's a hub for knowledge management. So sharing is caring, yes. Sharing, sharing, sharing. But we also want to have products. We heard about 300 products. We want to have standardized products. We want to have standardization. It's a topic which is now driven in GIZ also strongly. And I think there are some managerial processes we are yet to develop. Those who want to engage further, I know that Kirsten is very keen on that topic. And that Pharma Business School, SME loops, they are part of those tools where we analyze the processes currently for standardization. But what is very important for me, I'm a very hands-on person. This ground truthing, the German word Erdung, earth, soil, how does it get finally on this? How does it get roots? How does it get embedded in systems which are there in the countries, in the communities? So it's good we have the vision, it's good we dream, we strategize, we break it down on the various levels. Because at the end, we want to have impact, and we want to have impact on a larger scale. I'm somebody who is known for that nothing is too big. And this was a challenge the Gates Foundation at that time threw at us, and they said, nothing below 100,000 farmers. We said, how to do that? But then we had 3,000 farmers, 5,000 farmers at target group. But I think through these challenges, how do we reach a whole system? And that's actually where it's getting also quite mind-breaking. And that's where we need the community. Because this one, the big systems, we don't touch alone. And that's where we also want to have then, if we can prove our impacts. And Leonard Mitze mentioned it. Tell your story. What are your best practices? So we can influence also the policies on highest levels. So this is, for me, what Snrd stands for. Next slide, please. The heartbeat, it's the blue hearts of our working groups. Many of you have been in the trainings and are part of the working group meetings, the inclusive agribusiness. Heike and myself started in Senegal in 2014. 05, a working group which was called agribusiness something. So when I always read it, I still flip back. Doesn't mean a topic stays the same, it changes. So and it's not for that reason that we put it at the first, so it's by chance. The one which has really transformed a lot was lately the Climate and Nature Working Group. We had a climate task force analyzing that almost 46 projects in the sector network are working with the climate topics. So where to anchor it? The challenge was huge for that working group. Well done. Policies for rural development. Finally, no abbreviation on PPPPP. Some things I've never learned any of our abbreviations, to be honest. Now we have a super name. Thank you. We are with Snrd, Asia, two of us, and 3 working groups are here. The digital transformation, gender transformative approaches, and food and nutrition security go across. We also have the community manager from Snrd Asia, and 2 of us with us, Donaya. Aha, they're in the back. Welcome, Donaya. Thank you for coming. Similarly, we also joined them for their conference, so very close collaboration, and the working group speaker from the food and nutrition security group comes from India, Neha. Thank you, Neha, for making also cross-continent. When you do networking, the boundary taking is always the difficult one. So when we crossed these boundaries, it was very intentional, and we are happy that we did it. And thanks a lot also for Jochen, who kicked us hard sometimes and said, did you check with this one and that one? So thanks. Surely here the FMB tandem partners. We have how many here? All the FMB tandem partners. Thank you for coming. It is great, really, that we are anchored, and it's by purpose that whatever is done in each working group can feed into the products, into the topics, into any future discussion. So this is our heartbeat. Next slide, please. Who is here today? We have 140 people, out of which 120 plus 20 organizing team, larger organizing team. So like this, we could drive the number a little bit up. And we have guests here from IPA. We have some trainers, I think trainers, guests, who are our guests and trainers, just a wave. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wonderful, thanks a lot. They have helped us to do the backstage work also on technical grounds and very specific topics. Over 20 countries represented. 3 head of divisions. I think they deserve a clap. This is wonderful. Whilst on the same time, other sector network are meeting, we got the honor. Thank you. Really, we appreciate. 20 plus cluster coordinators, AVs and DVs. Sorry for the mistake here. 20 plus. We had a short engagement. If there are any side meetings you wish to have, come out. This is your chance. We want the decision makers also in the group, whilst we do a lot of networking and onboarding too. This year's host, Invest for Job. I think that one, I would like them to come up here with the organizing team and community managers, just that we can really applaud you. Community manager, Anja Metz, Janice, please. Chibril, Pascaline, the best dancer today. Please join us up here. Senegal team, Mathieu Segar. Big thank you, Boubacar. I know there are many in the background, and the event management team FCC. Jens, you were, please. I think this one. So it's so easy to be speaker of such a powerful team. Huh? Wonderful job for all of you. Up to now, I know we don't take blame games. If there's any criticism, we take your constructive criticism, we take also your needs, but they have done everything. They haven't slept for several nights. Another appreciation for our organizing team and Invest for Jobs who has hosted us, and the community managers, Tanis and Anya. Thank you very much. Thank you. So you can see that you are never alone when you do any work in Snrd. This was actually where we came with all the larger team. I would like to now go to another announcement, and not yet new slide, please. I want to announce, as I had done it earlier on, that this will be my last conference as speaker. But in Snrd, you are never alone. You don't sweat alone, and you are never working alone. So we have found a very, very good new speaker, which is also here with us today, which has taken a new job in Africa, and therefore was approved by the managerial group, AVs, cluster coordinators, and DVs today. And I want to announce that it is Heike Höfler who will be the next speaker. It looks you can see what nostalgia does. That we went back and said there was somebody we have worked with very well. And we have sometimes a tradition of some piece of wood to hand over. But I'm a very practical person, Heike. You know, I use things for everything. I use it as door handle. If the other one is broken, I use it as chap planter. For those who don't know what it is, come afterwards. You can measure tree height with it. This is something which helps us to get practical. In former times, when still old chiefs were ruling, they used it as power symbol. We use it for handles, for everything. It's very handy, can be turned all directions. And that, I think, is what we need, changing perspective, using old tools for new directions. I will show you that now. I will put it in your hands and I will call it back until Friday, when I send it with your team to Zambia. But in the meantime, we work with it together. Now, I need to call up still Jens on the stage. I told you, you never work alone in Snrd. That's always teamwork, and Jens is in Brussels. He will stay on, but we always want to work in 3. So we still look for somebody to join, and you have the chance until Wednesday evening to write your motivation to the Snrd email, which you all know by heart. And then we have a run-up on Friday evening for a real election for the third speaker to join these two beautiful and inspirational and energizing people. So this is the call for the third person. And now you can see the three of us for this week. Thank you all. Now, Heike, you are invited also to make your statement because this one was not announced, but it's good that you also make the statement now.
Thank you very much, Rita, and thank you all for your patience. Between you, the drinks, and the dinner, it's just only me. So I'll be brief. And I want to thank Rita and the Snrd speakers before her, but also your team and the current steering group and the heads of division for putting the faith and confidence in me, for having proposed me as the new speaker. I'd like to thank also with much appreciation all AVs and DVs who agreed on this selection of a new speaker. So I'm humbled, and okay, we already heard a lot about nostalgia, and I'll not go there, but I thought I'll share just some very few bits of me for those who don't know me, and why I was also keen on becoming an Snrd speaker, and that is, and I could not have framed it any better than Albert did. I'm personal witness to the threefold benefits he had mentioned in his words. I can very clearly say that I have professionally benefited a lot from Snrd. I started working with GTZ in 2002. Half a year later, I attended my first Snrd meeting in Accra, 2003. And that was a very special moment in my professional life. And ever since, I think there were 15 Snrd conferences and meetings. I think I've attended 14. So I have a bit of a history myself with it. Rita has also alluded to it. Some of you in the room are not only professional good colleagues, but have also become over the years professional and personal friends. And I value that very highly. I've also witnessed in the project I was working with how beneficial the networking and the peer exchange and the learning can be. And lastly, the organizational benefit to have this view, I think the unique view of a lot of people working in projects and some from headquarters coming together and exchanging regularly. I think I've seen the benefits. Very briefly, I am an agricultural economist. When I graduated in 2001, there were people around university and some places who said, what do you want to do? Food security, agriculture, development corporate, this thing of world food security and hunger will be over. There were issues named the Millennium Development Goals to be done by 2015. There was a very prominent Vision 2020 by the then CG system, who had clear targets to eliminate hunger and achieve world food security by these dates. We've just heard, and I think Jochen and Ralf have alluded to that, we just had the recent SDG account at the UN General Assembly, and we know we're not on good track, and it doesn't look like we're reaching SDG 2. So unfortunately, I would have also looked for other issues to do and work on, but somehow I'm now stuck for 20 years in various roles and positions with this topic. I still like it a lot, but I thought I'll share my motivation, why I still like a lot to continue working on the reduction of hunger, on food and nutrition security, and agricultural production. There's this saying by William Blake: some are born to sweet delight, and some are born to endless night. And I think the people born to endless night have nothing done to deserve that plight. They are poor and they are trapped in poverty and have not done anything wrong. This pure inequality, and it is pure coincidence on which side we are born. And I've been privileged to be born on the happy and bright side. And that is what is driving me professionally to work on this topic. And I'm very honored and humbled to continue working on this and be given the opportunity as new speaker of Snrd to continue, encourage, lead the network, encourage others and motivate the working groups and all of you to continue working along these lines. And with these notes, I would like now to invite my Zambian colleagues who are with me here to stand up. Aha. Here we go. So we deliberately decided to come with good numbers because we want to extend an invitation to you to come and celebrate with us in 2025 the 30 years of Snrd Africa in Zambia. And I'm very pleased, as Rita has said, in Snrd you never walk alone, and I'm already very happy to have a good group with me. Please talk to also the organizing team, have a look here and there. How are things done? Scribble down your ideas, what to do different, what to continue. This will guide us in the next 2 years. And for Rita and the team, I also have something for you.
But I have to say, it's not yet the closing.
No, it's not a closing. Rita, Jens, and the organizing team. We've brought for you from Zambia a mini Zambia agri-food system. And deliberately, we have not taken the staple food. We did not bring any maize meal, no shima, unfortunately, no fortunately, because I'm leading the food and nutrition security projects in Zambia. So of course, we've brought you sorghum red meal. We've brought some rice flour and honey and soy products. And actually, I think that was a mishap. I don't think it's very culturally sensitive to take groundnuts to Senegal, but nevertheless, they are barbecue floured. Maybe you don't get them here, and maybe you still need some Nervennahrung for the next couple of days, and in particular after the conference, because as Rita has said, we are handing over at the end of the year, so all the financial business of this year is still in your hands. So some nuts to nibble, and some chocolate from Zambia / Tanzania. And with that, I would like to share with your group, and we invite all of you to Zambia and to continue our work on agri-food systems there. Much looking forward.
Wonderful opening, and welcome all of you for this conference. It gives the flair already about what Snrd is, a continuous learning with people of different backgrounds, different countries. And with that, I want to also hand back to the moderators for the latest announcement. We go for a welcome dinner, and tomorrow we have more openings. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Heike. Wonderful way to close off this opening ceremony. And what an amazing showcase of what I would really call longevity. I didn't know about the 30-year anniversary that is coming up in 2 years. But I believe that much of what Rita has talked about really shows how robust and long-term established Snrd is. And there's one thing that we often forget when we are in times of great uncertainty and much change and shifting global environments, which is long-term thinking, actually. Science shows that whenever we are faced with short-term challenges and too many changes as humans, our natural habit is to respond with as much short-term thinking as possible. And I believe that the entire story of Snrd and this beautiful handover is really showing what can happen when we think more long-term and build a case of longevity out of this network as we continue to exchange. I believe we have much spirit now for the upcoming conference days. We very much look forward to welcoming you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Okay, it's 8:30. At 8:30. So maybe we can make a deal, you know, because it starts at 8:30. You could be seated by 8:15. And the coffee will be the best when you get it first out of the coffee machine, I promise you. So we'd love to start on time. Try to sit here by 8:15. We'll play some nice music to warm you up for the day. And as Rita said, we have a number of really exciting program points tomorrow. Of course, a number of breakout sessions in the afternoon, but also really exciting high-level panel in the morning and some really interesting expert discussions. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And for now, you can enjoy your welcome dinner and mingle and deliberate about the opening ceremony. We wish you a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.